I haven't mentioned it much in the past, but I'm a huge fan of the Pikmin series. For a bit of backstory, my dad got me Pikmin 2 back when I was but a wee lassie in the olden days of the 2010s, and I really enjoyed it. A year or two later I learned what numbers meant and I wanted the first game, so I woke up on the morning of my birthday to find that, lo and behold, my parents had gotten me the abomination that is Pikmin 1. I'm only half joking. I got Pikmin 3 when it came out, and the rest is history. Since then, I've tried a few more real-time strategy games, but nothing else comes close to the wonderful, lovable atmosphere of the Pikmin. Everything from its creatures, music, art, and characters, to its small but unsurprisingly great fandom, make up some of the best video game experiences I've ever had. If you can read, you'll know that this video is, of course, about its locations. All the different environments the Hawkatations and Kopites have explored over the games are unique in their own ways, and I've had different experiences with each one of them. Some were, of course, created for different purposes than others, final trial, but each does its job quite well. This list is, of course, based purely upon my own opinions, and not objective at all. Feel free to comment below where you'd put these areas on the list. But with that said, I've done enough talking now, so let's hop right into the ranking. Oh yeah, and I'm also not ranking Hey Pikmin because I never played it and I don't think it even uses the same kind of areas as the main series. None of the locations were even on the tier list website anyway, so sorry to the 3 Hey Pikmin fans, but shut up. Starting off the F tier, we have number 14, The Final Trial. Well, there had to be one. I don't care what you say, this is the one ranking I will stay adamant on. To start, let's analyze its layout. Yeah, it's literally just a fancy line. To be fair, it does use the different types of Pikmin well enough, but there are literally only 2 ways you can require yellows for use in Pikmin 1. Make a ledge slightly higher than normal, or go with the tried and true method of explosives. We'll get to that in a second. You also have to take a party of blues across the pond to build a bridge, and then do one of the GameCube Pikmin game's notoriously infuriating puzzles, and throw a bunch of reds on a bridge full of fire geysers, the very creative name that I had to look up because they're not in the Pikwipedia, and then swarm them across to the wall at the end of the bridge. Then right before the boss fight, that literally the entire level is based on, there's another wall that is just there for no reason. It's really easy to break, I don't even know why it's there. Incredible game design, Pikmin team. Then, there's the final boss fight with the Emperor Bullblacks, where the yellows come in. Actually, I think there was a bomb wall, in the level at some point, but, I completely forgot about that, so, you know. For some quick context, bomb rocks can only be carried by yellows in 1, couldn't be used in 2, and were brought back in 3 for all Pikmin. Since there weren't any hazards to use the yellows for on the way here, because electricity was not in this game, this is where they shine. The Bullblacks attacks with its tongue, so you toss the yellows over it to sometimes hopefully drop the bomb, or just wait for it to be eaten instead of chucking it like an idiot, because if I haven't mentioned yet, the AI in 1 is subpar to say the least. After all that, you get the secret stash and beat the game. The music is really weird and feels super, GameCube-y and Pikmin-like, but I feel like having 2 melodies that both give that lighthearted feel but also create suspense just doesn't sound good. It feels like the song's just too busy, you know? All in all, mediocre as a boss fight or trial, but awful as a full stage. It's definitely far from terrible in a vacuum, but when we're pitting it against 13 other areas, it gets a little shoddy. Speaking of those other areas, next up is number 13, the Forest Naval. From what I've seen from the Pikmin fandom, I'm about to get a lot of hate for this one. First off, the music is great, and one of my favorite tracks from 1, if not the whole series, which kept it above Final Trial. Almost everything else, though, is significantly worse. To start, there's a sort of fog over the entire level, making it darker, like a Minecraft blindness effect kind of thing, which, while realistic as the level is set in a cave, makes the level really annoying to navigate with its complex pathways and many walls and bridges. There are 4 bomb walls in the area, one of which is a black bomb wall, meaning you need a lot more bomb rocks. This wouldn't be an issue if there were more bomb rock deposits around, but there are only 2 on opposite sides of the map, which require blues to even access. This is also inefficient because you have a limited amount of time in 1 to even complete the game, so going for a high score gets annoying at Forest Naval. This level also has some of the worst puzzles in the game, which is saying a lot because the puzzles in this game feel like they were made while the developers were on crack at 2 in the morning with the Final Trial soundtrack playing in the background. Okay. Deep breaths. You beat Forest Naval already. You're fine. To make what could end up being its own entire video short, the Forest Naval really infuriates me. Every time I go to this area when playing through 1, I regret it almost instantly. You know what? 5 likes and I'll make the Forest Naval video. I can't really go into it here, but if Final Trial was a full area, this would be way down at the bottom. I'm not going to harp on it too much more because I want to move on to a slightly less infuriating area next. The first level in D tier, number 14, Formidable Oak. In the 12 years between Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 3, the hardware of the games were on improved, and it feels like the developer's experience improved too. There's a huge difference between how much fun I had with Formidable Oak and the apathy I feel every time I get 29 ship parts in Pikmin 1. It's designed so much better and works as a much different but all the same, much more enjoyable final boss. There's also the fact that while the final trial was technically optional, the chase scene with and the eventual fight against the Plasm Wraith is the big climax of 3's overarching story. So, why is it here? To put it simply, it's a boss fight. That's all this area is. There are no treasures or fruits to collect, no new enemies, and the few data logs are just story from Olimar. Which, I mean, while the story is admittedly emotionally charged and interesting enough, it just doesn't give you much insight into his character's story as much as some of the other ones. And this Water Wraith-esque chase scene with this mysterious golden blob that, while nerve-wracking initially, kind of mellows out near the end, and in subsequent playthroughs serves really well as a boss fight, but that's not what I'm ranking in this video. I'm putting it up against all of the complex, layered environments the series has to offer, which it sadly just doesn't compare to. It has a couple fun remixes in mission mode that offer it a little more explorability, and it remakes the Final Trial theme pretty well when it's raining, but you only really get to hear that theme for 15 seconds, so... It is also not as bad as the previous 2 levels, but as it stands, it's only 3rd from the worst area of the series. Closing out D tier and the most disappointing levels in the series, we have number 11, the Impact Site. This is what started it all? The first area Olimar ever landed in that got the ball rolling into my favorite game series of all time? It's not even a good tutorial. There's the onion, a couple pellet posies, a box, and a wall. There's almost nothing here except a funny Easter egg and some funky looking clam dudes that were so underutilized in this title they had to steal them and put them in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. There's almost nothing else to even talk about here, it's so bare bones. Let's move on to an area that I can at least say is good with a straight face. The first area is C tier. Number 10, Distant Tundra. I don't know why, I simply don't know why, but I just can't get behind this area. I recognize that it's a good level and it has some great enemies and mechanics, but I feel like I've just had too many bad experiences with this one. It's really complex, which makes it fun to explore, but it feels quite a bit like Pikmin 1's areas in its difficulty to efficiently navigate. It does, however, have multiple captains and the Go Here mechanic, which one would greatly benefit from. Obviously, one only has Olimar for story reasons, but I'd still like a Pikmin 1 remake with modern features in some form. Pikmin 4, perhaps? Little side story thing? A lot of this negative bias, I think, comes from mission mode. It has a bunch of remixes of the main levels from 3 in the Defeat Enemies section, I believe, and the Distant Tundra remix is one of my least favorites. Another issue is how empty it starts to feel. Sure, you can spend a good couple days there after getting blues and wings, but it's nowhere near as much of a delight to explore as areas like Tropical Wilds or the Distant Spring. All in all, pretty decent level, just doesn't gel with me for whatever reason. Now, onto the B tier with areas I enjoy. Starting with number 9, Twilight River. This area has a great aesthetic and decent music, and it's where you get the objective best Pikmin type in the game. This is a fact I will not allow it to be disputed. Yes, Bulbmin are still better, but they're not in 3 making Wings the best type in this game. Anyway, Twilight River is a lot of fun. I've always liked the fall setting in video games, and Pikmin really does it justice. The enemies here are kind of mediocre, and it can be tricky to navigate for sure, but it's still one of the most fun areas in my opinion. I say fun with emphasis, because while I do enjoy it, it has one glaring flaw: the Twilight River itself. The lily pad mechanic is a really cool idea. I like lily pads as platforms in every game I've seen them in except Mario Sunshine, where they were from hell, but that's beside the point. Tune into my video next week to hear more about that. However, in practice, it doesn't flow super well in a real-time strategy game. Yes, they're used in some creative ways, and yes, you can bypass them with wings and blues, but that's only 2 types of Pikmin. You're not just going to be out and about with the full party of wings, well, maybe in this stage, but still. It just kind of disrupts the flow of the game, when being efficient and swift is the whole nature of Pikmin. Some people might enjoy it, but it's not really a mechanic I've ever enjoyed. Continuing and ending the trend of autumn-themed stages, we have number 8, Wistful Wild. Yeah, for a rehash of the 2 most boring stages from 1, this is a surprisingly good area. The music is an absolute banger, and I'm surprised they managed to remake the final trial into such a relatively fleshed out area while adding the impact site's layout so naturally, tying it all together with the whole of Heroes at the end. However, there's only so much you can do with two of the worst areas in the series. Wistful Wild is a post-game area from 2, so it offers a few caves and treasures, but not much else. It's aesthetically pleasing and has a great soundtrack, but it's honestly just boring. But where one game ends, we have the first full area of the next, which is why number 7, closing out B tier, is the Garden of Hope. While it uses the namesake of the real first area of Pikmin 1, this level is very independent from the Forest of Hope. It's a fun starting area. Yes, I know that Tropical Wilds is technically the starting area, and Distant Tundra is also technically the starting area if you want to put it that way, but Forest of Hope is the one you first get almost full access to? I don't know, but it is still a fun area that does a great job to show off Rock Pikmin's capabilities, and later on has a really neat little B-side to show off the new and improved blues. It is of course a bit small after the first couple days, even though it's a larger area than average because of its 2 halves. It's a cool concept, but it leaves a bit more to be desired from each section as opposed to both combined. Both the Quackled Mireclops and Armored Maudad are neat bosses, and the puzzles are enjoyable enough, except the one that you can just completely skip with wings. Take that, Miyamoto, ha ha ha! And you have incentive to come back after getting yellows to get even more fruits. It has some pretty good, calm music too. All in all, a fun little area that definitely earns its place at the top of B tier. But starting off A tier is a surprising pick, number 6, the Valley of Repose. This is a more nostalgia-based pick than some of the others. It was the first area I ever explored, and I think it serves as a really cool intro to Pikmin 2. It's a great tutorial showing you pretty early on how to build up your Pikmin supply, fight enemies, break down walls, and how caves and candy pop buds work, which is really important as candy pops are a lot more prevalent in 2 than the other game. The first 2 days of Pikmin 2 are sure to leave a new player at least somewhat familiar with the game's most important mechanics right off the bat. Then of course, you can come back after you get blues to unlock the whole rest of the area, with new enemies, settings, and some really tough caves. Some of the endgame caves get really annoying, but I'll save that for a cave tier list next video. I'm looking at you, Subterranean Complex. If you've been enjoying this one, subscribe so you don't miss that. The music for this level is super chill too, and it's all in all just a really neat little area. In stark contrast to the previous entry, we have number 5, Tropical Wilds. I mentioned it earlier, but didn't go into too much detail. This is my favorite area in Pikmin 3 because of how many layers it has. It's so fun to explore and navigate because it has the perfect degree of complexity. Its music suits the vibe perfectly, and you can come back later with wings and blues to get even more fruit. My only complaints are that some of the enemies don't feel as challenging as they should, and a couple of the puzzles can get really frustrating. But it's all in all a remarkable area. I ranked it so low because of the 4 areas after it that are just so much better. If you've been paying attention though, you'll know that technically there are only 2 more levels to rank. Sort of. Like for example, number 4, Awakening Wood. Pikmin 2 has some of the most distinct music in the entire series. When compared to the more calm ambient tracks like Distant Tundra and Forest of Hope, tracks like the Valley of Repose and Awakening Wood feel much more driving and adventurous than anything else from the series. It works well to display the nature of Pikmin 2, where you're being plunged right back into the same world you just came out of, further highlighted by the closest release dates in the series' history. Awakening Wood is a very nice return to the layout of Forest of Hope, and does a great job showcasing the abilities of the purples and white, as well as creating an air of mystery that I remember to this day by locking the blues behind an electric wall you can't break down just yet. However, there's only so much you can do to differentiate a clone of a level from the original. 2's mechanics do a great job of this, but it's not quite good enough to beat out our first S tier number 3, the Forest of Hope. First, I guess I'll address the Mireclops in the room. The Forest of Hope is one of the most iconic tracks from the Pikmin OST. It really embodies the relaxing scenery of PNF 404 and the more calm, happy side of the Pikmin games. I've always found this level a bit bare bones, and I love the Pikmin 2 music, but I can recognize that 2's odd, almost realistic sounding instruments don't hold a candle to the original sound fonts. This stage does also have the Armored Cannon Beetle, a boss that was in 1 but never brought back, and a crazy number of snaggarts. Like, what even is this, Nintendo? All in all though, it's a great stage and my favorite track from the series for sure. But our penultimate area is number 2, the Perplexing Pool. True to its name, this is probably one of the most complex areas in Pikmin 2, with its tough enemies, weirdly placed treasures, level changes, and difficult caves. The music's background run of triplets make it tough to tell at first that the song's actually in 4/4 time, I'm gonna be honest. I was talking to a friend about this video, reveal yourself in the comments if you so wish, traveler, and he said that Perplexing Pool is like they took Distant Spring and made it the 3rd level, but didn't lower the difficulty despite it not being the final area. Well, first off, technically neither is the Distant Spring, but we'll talk about that in a second. Also, I already gave my take on the final trial, so I can't really talk there, but second, Perplexing Pool is the last area you unlock before the post-game, and I think it serves a great purpose where it is. It's also the home of the yellow Pikmin, my 3rd favorite type behind the obvious picks, and also the Pikmin that open up a lot of the world for us, letting us access more caves, treasures, and the type that open up the most of the world for us, blues. I really like the atmosphere that Perplexing Pool creates, and I've always just found it a joy to explore. It's one of my favorite areas to play through, but of course, it can't quite live up to the #1 pick, something this whole video's been leading up to. At the top of the S tier, we have #1, the Distant Spring. This is peak Pikmin right here. It's a tough and yet so strangely calming area. The enemies and treasures, combined with the graphics, layout, and music, create the perfect balance of difficult and relaxing that really exemplifies the gameplay of the Pikmin series, especially the first one. There's also an optional boss here called the Smoky Prog, which I accidentally locked myself out of in my current playthrough because even though I reached the Distant Spring in time, I didn't know you had to wait for the egg to hatch and I just killed it. I went back and forth on whether or not to put Perplexing Pool here instead, but reaching the Distant Spring on my last playthrough and just spending a few days here was all I needed to show me what Pikmin 1 was capable of. I might harp on this game a lot for being buggy, a bit technically limited, maybe not the most polished, but I cannot deny that this game was a work of art and ahead of its time. Congratulations to the Distant Spring for being the best area this series has ever had. Well, that was quite the video. My voice hurts. I've never really done something like this, preferring to keep to gameplay and storytime videos. If you want to see more stuff like this and more Pikmin related content, make sure to like the video and comment down below to let me know. It really helped me out, and if you don't want to miss that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button to join the gang. I stopped writing my script here, so I guess I'm just gonna ad-lib some stuff about Pikmin. As I've mentioned a few times in this video, I'm playing through Pikmin 1 again. Forest Naval was, of course, the worst. I've finished every area, I'm pretty sure, except Distant Spring, which was a lot of fun in the Forest of Hope. Impact Site took, like, a day. Forest Naval took many more days. And Distant Spring is enjoyable so far. I'm not really looking forward to the final trial, but it's probably only going to take a day as well. I am also playing through Pikmin 3 Deluxe and doing some of the mission mode. I beat it on hard and ultra spicy recently, ultra spicy within I think only like 25 or 26 days, which I'm pretty proud of. That's probably a new record for me actually. The mission mode stages are of course kicking my butt, but that's just Pikmin 3. And Pikmin in general. I love this series a lot, and I hope you guys too. It's been such a joy just doing this video, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it and want to see more. I guess that's all. Just remember to subscribe, and until next time, this is Shoot Kapow. Over and out. I can't wait for the blooper reel at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. Wait, this is going in the blooper reel. For some quick context, Bomb Rocks. I spelled them Bomb Ricks on the script. That's funny. Are you having fun cutting all my bloopers out? Starting off 8. Oh, I already said that. The Forest of Hope is one of the most iconic trap remix of Forest of Hope. Where can I find that? The music's background run of triplet. That's not triplets. That's quarter notes. That's not quarter notes. That's half notes. I can't read music. The music's background run of groups of 3/4 notes. Oh my gosh. I can't read. I've been in band for 6 years and I can't read music.